Yeah, Nigerian Diddy back again. Now, I got an interesting segment today. I'm gonna meet a guy in Mount Sinai Hospital called Jim Cesario. He's a disabled person just like me, spinal cord injury, but I want him to explain himself, what he do, and why he does or why he do the things he do at the hospital for patients like me with the same paralysis. So, welcome to my world and my journey. Like I said, I'm the ambassador, Nigerian Diddy, and I have to do this and make a stand. I see a lot of people suffering in Africa right now, and tears is dropping from my eyes. But I gotta be the voice, and I gotta speak. And that's my job and my duty and my calling, and I'm about to show the world. It's done in the Western world. In Nigeria, we are at 50, and I don't see no reason why can't we be the same way or do the same things. So, hear my cry. Africa, hear my cry. Let's make a change. Okay. This is Nigerian Diddy. I'm with Jim Cesario, one of my mentors, and he's gonna break it down. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Jim.
Good. All right. Where do we start? I can go back. I've been injured over 40 years, spinal cord injury, and I've seen a lot of change in the world. Attitudes, technology, just a whole lot of change. And probably where this is going back to is people maybe aren't as, say, savvy or educated on people who have spinal cord injury. And I think the most important thing about injury and about overcoming it and getting back on the road and you know, taking charge of your life again is to adapt to what the surroundings are, adapt to the situation. A lot of people see spinal cord injury as, you know, a physical thing that has happened to you. Your spine is injured, you have paralysis, it's impacted your bladder, your bowel, sensation, all sorts of things and everything. Wow, that sounds like a lot. Wow, you can't walk, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'll tell you, yeah, it's a large part, but probably the biggest part of your spinal cord injury is what happens up here in your head. Mentally, psychologically, and spiritually is probably the biggest impact takes a hit. You have control of that. You may not have control of your legs, you may not have control of a lot of other things, but you have control of your mind. Like, you know, the programs that I have called Life Challenge programs, I put people in situations where they're on the edge. It's edgy, adventure, whitewater rafting, skydiving, skiing, and they'll say, oh, that's a lot of fun and everything, but what it is it's showing the person these are things that you can do. They didn't think they could do these things after their injury, but you know what? You can do these things, and if you can do these things, you know what? There's a lot of other things that you can do in life. And it's about your mind, it's about your attitude. You know, about your attitude. How I project to you is not what you see in this chair. It's how I feel about myself. If I feel good about myself, that's going to project to somebody else, and they're going to feel comfortable with me. If I feel comfortable with myself, then people are going to feel comfortable with me, and then they're more willing to, you know, hey, man, he has a spinal cord injury, a disability, man, but he's just like us, because we are just like you. You know, if you're a survivor before your injury, you'll be a survivor after your injury. But it's so important to educate the public. You know, they're afraid of a person, and sometimes they look at a person in a wheelchair, they don't know what to say. They're scared. They don't know. Ignorance makes people afraid of you. And so what you're there, you know, like I'll see people and, you know, they may look at me and this and everything, and I use humor a lot. You know, it's the best thing. You know, you'll see a lot of people who have disabilities. You'll see people that are angry. You know, they'll say, oh man, that guy's angry, he has a disability, oh what an angry guy. You know what? You're not doing anything except alienating more people. If you do it with a smile and you educate people, you know, they say, you know what, I met a guy today, man, and he had a great attitude. He was in a wheelchair, but he had a great attitude. And that will take to the next person, and it'll be contagious, you know? So, you know, I've always done that. I've always kidded with people and been natural with people and make them feel at ease. You know, they're more likely to listen to you than if I'm saying, you got to do this for the disabled people because they deserve it. People aren't going to listen. But if you explain to them and say, you know what, we're part of the world, we're part of society, we're here to help you, and we're just like you, you know, we're average people, you know. So,
and we vote too.
And we vote too. And we hold jobs, and we get married.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like anybody else, as Leo was saying, you know, we have geniuses and there's idiots. Yeah. There's everybody in the spectrum, you know. Just because you have a disability doesn't mean, you know, you're serious in this. You know, all sorts of people in the world.
Are you willing to come to Nigeria and give them a helping hand?
Sure. I mean, you know, you tell me if you'd like me to come there.
Okay.
I'd be willing to share what I've learned in 40 years, over 40 years, sitting in a chair, and my experience, and here working at Mount Sinai and helping people with spinal cord injury. Obviously, man, I'm here. Give me a call, you know. When I was injured many years ago, you know, Muhammad Ali was stripped of the title. And everybody knows Muhammad Ali. He's world renowned, right?
Yeah.
They had taken the title away from him. This was in 1967. And a priest used to come bedside to bedside, came to me, and we were talking sports. And he was good friends with Muhammad Ali. And I was out in Iowa at the time. And he said, you know what? I'm going to call Muhammad and see if he'd come and visit you in the hospital. Right? He made a couple calls and everything, and he came to my bedside. And he said, you know what? He's coming. He's going to fly in to see you. And I said, you got to be kidding me. No, Muhammad Ali's coming, right? And he came bedside, right? And he looked at me, right? And he says, you got to fight. You got to fight for what you believe in. He says, you can do it. And about 10 years later, I went to the training camp in Pennsylvania, and he was training for Frazier 2 fight. And he opened up his home. He had these log cabins in Pennsylvania. He opened up his home to me and my friend. And it started to snow that night. And he says, you want to stay over, Jim? And I mean, he met me and everything. But, you know, here's a great, great leader. And opening it up and sharing, you know? And that's what the spirit is. And so I'll never forget that. And I see him today and where he's at with Parkinson and his disability. And he keeps moving on, you know? He hasn't let life beat him. So, you know, that's what I say to you guys, you know? Don't let it beat you, man. You know, you survive. Overcome. You know, I go bedside to bedside with newly injured, and I say to them, look, this feels like a nightmare to you. This is the worst nightmare you're having, but you know what? It gets better. I promise you, it will get better. You know, there will be life after this. And you know what? When I see patients, they come back a year later, 2 years old later, you know, they say, you know what, Jimmy, you were right there. All they need is reassurance that everything's going to be okay. When you're a kid, you go to your mom, they say to you, what, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to, all you need is that. Everything's going to be okay. And it makes you feel a little better, you know, to move on. I'm married. I have a family. I have kids. It goes on. Yes. Okay. You know, maybe a little different, but you know what? It still happens, you know? It still happens.
So, that's about it. Thanks for having this interview with me.
My pleasure.
Jim.
Okay.
And Nigeria at 50, I'll bring you more stories.